All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts.
But just think about it. Just think about it. Our whole world is sitting there on a computer. It's in the computer. Everything. Your DMV records, your social security, your credit cards, your medical history. It's all right there. Everyone is stored, and there's like this little electronic shadow on each and every one of us, just begging for somebody to screw with. And you know what? They've done it to me, and you know what? They're gonna do it to you.
In this instalment of Digital Geographies, we are thinking about how we identify ourselves and how we may be identified. Identity may mean different things to each of us. We place emphases on different parts of who we think we are depending upon context. In some respects, especially in digital media, we curate who we are or how we are seen. Our digital lives have, at their heart, a sort of contradiction. The internet has been variously figured as emancipatory, freeing us from the constraints of normative categories such as gender, class, and sexuality. Social media more recently have been represented as something more malign. We are tracked and we're measured by platforms that wish to capture the intimate details of our lives. This video focuses upon that contradiction. Let's puzzle through how we negotiate the perceived benefits and risks of life online. From Howard Rheingold's virtual community to Sherry Turkle's life on the screen, the consensus amongst many scholars of the late 20th century internet and World Wide Web was that the internet marked a radical shift in the performance of identity. This is summed up by a 1993 cartoon in the New Yorker magazine by Peter Steiner. In the cartoon, one dog says to another, "On the internet, nobody knows you're a dog." In online message boards and early multiplayer games, users were free to perform themselves differently. Internet ethnographer Christine Hine argues, some people exploit the disjuncture between offline and online identity to explore different roles and persona quite deliberately. Even so, Hine follows up with a significant observation. Wynne and Katz in 1997 suggest that the academic preoccupation with the internet as a sphere of identity play, fragmentation, and virtuality without real reference is not mirrored in the majority of everyday internet use. How we express ourselves online is a part of who we are. In this sense, identities are not separate or fractured per se. Rather, identities are performed differently depending upon context. It is relations through which identities are realized between people and between people, places, and things. Contexts matter, and we have fairly nuanced, tacit understandings of how and where they make a difference. For example, we might choose to foreground particular parts of ourselves on certain platforms over others. We might have multiple accounts on particular platforms to curate or perform to different audiences. The phenomena of Finsta is a case in point. The highly polished and curated public account is partnered by a secret, private account for a select audience. The number of different platforms across which we intercommunicate may tempt us into suggesting that we specialize our identity performances by platform. For example, the curated public persona of Instagram versus the playful fleeting moments of Snapchat. However, for some digital scholars, this is a mistaken belief. In their multi-year global ethnographic project, the Why We Post team, led by anthropologist Danny Miller, argue for a polymedia approach to understanding our uses of the digital. Seen in this way, our uses of social media are not stratified by platform. For Miller and his team, we must not understand any one platform or media in isolation. Instead, we should view social media as integral to everyday life in the same way that we now understand the place of the telephone conversation as part of offline life, and not as a separate sphere. Let's move on to consider some of the qualities of our polymediated lives and what they mean for our performances of identity. I will discuss two examples: the performance of public intimacy and the curation of self. First, consider the ways in which people in public life at all sorts of levels perform a kind of public intimacy. Celebrities in particular apparently reveal aspects of what might be considered their private lives on social media. An example is pregnancy and new baby photos. Whilst the publicisation of parenthood is hardly a new phenomenon, this has, until recently, been more the preserve of gossip magazines. In recent years, there have been instead high-profile announcements of pregnancy and the new arrival of a baby on Instagram by public figures such as Beyoncé, Ed Sheeran, and Kylie Jenner. The ostensible direct connection between celebrity and fan through social media constitutes a strange sort of intimacy. If we were to browse the comments and reactions to such posts, then we can see countless responses written as if the fan is a friend. As Alice Marwick has argued, such performative relations are parasocial. In parasocial relationships, a fan responds to a media figure as if he or she were a personal acquaintance. Social media transform the parasocial into the potentially social and increase the emotional ties between celebrity and fan. The extent to which mediated intimacy can be considered authentic is a difficult question. On the one hand, fans of public figures may feel emotional ties more readily. On the other hand, these are curated performances, arguably designed to promote a persona and raise publicity. Nevertheless, we might also argue that, in fact, we all do this. Our polymedia performances of ourselves in an ongoing performance of public intimacy, and that is the topic of our second example. In our second example, we explore how we perform our identities through polymedia. Many of the ways in which we connect with others involve forms of curation. We make decisions about what we show of ourselves, to whom, when, and how. In many senses, the uses of digital mediation situates us close at a distance. We communicate across and between varying personal, professional, and social contexts. These curations may be helpful, but they may also be challenging. Let's briefly consider a contemporary example, the selfie.
There's like three types of selfies. There's the selfie, a groupie, and an ugly. And a selfie is like what you'd put on like Instagram to like show like I'm going out, look at my outfit, I've just done my makeup, look at my hair. And you try and make yourself like the most attractive that you can be. And then a groupie is like when you're at a party, when you're out for a meal with your friends. They're more light-hearted than a selfie, but they're more fun. People pull like funny faces. So first I'll start with my eyeliner. What makes a good selfie? I think the angles and the light. So if you catch yourself in like the right way, it makes it look better. So like you could be like the most stunning person, but if you catch it at the wrong angle, it's just all wrong. You have to like, it sounds like really weird, you have to like almost pose, like really like pose for it, like think like people are going to judge me on this, right? I'm going to be like the most attractive I can be. And you have to, because you have to take it from like a higher angle than you are. Lower angles make like for a worse, like when you're taking it ugly, you take it from like the lowest angle possible. But when you're taking like a selfie, it's like up here, like you're trying to catch the light like on you. You want like definition in your face. You want like shine in your eyes. So the higher you take it, the more light you catch, the better the angles, the better the hair. It just works better. You'll take like 100 selfies at once, like slightly moving like this, like edging. And then if there's one, then you'll post it. If there's not, then you'll just sit there and laugh at them and send like embarrassing ones to your friends. And then everyone just laughs. And then you have like an ugly, which is like Snapchats you send to like your best friends, where you try and get like the ugliest pictures possible. and you just take them from like the worst angles, and they're just to be funny. Snapchat uglies sort of like bring people together, because it's almost like I feel comfortable enough around you and I trust you enough with this ugly photo of me, and I trust you not to send it to someone else. Like, and then it's like I'm so comfortable around you, I almost don't have to make myself look like I would for like the rest of like Instagram.
Selfies, at least for the young woman in the video clip, are a polymedia performance. Your own experience may be similar, or it may be different. In any case, there may be analogous experiences in your own uses of social media. In this video, we've explored how identity has been considered both liberated and constrained by digital media. We've seen the ways that our performances of identity with and through the digital are multiple. I've suggested that rather than a separation between online and real life performances of identity, online and offline are never separate. To explore how we perform our identities through the digital, we looked at two examples. First, we examined the ways in which public intimacy is constructed on social media. In doing so, we learned about the idea of polymedia. I invited you to think about digital identities as performances that span across the platforms we use. Building from this, in our second example, we explored how that performance can take place. We focused on the canonical contemporary polymedia performance of the selfie. So identity carries lots of meanings. It can be emancipatory, multiple performances of different selves across several digital media platforms, and using different, perhaps clashing forms of representation.